Hi, I'm Amy Koranek, a Sculpey brand ambassador, and today we're looking at using Liquid Sculpey in a fun and unique way. Liquid Sculpey is my favorite medium to work with because there's just so much you can do with it. Today we're going to make a little dish out of Premo, and we're going to use Liquid Sculpey to make the decorative accents. This is a really unique and fun way to use Liquid Sculpey, and my whole emphasis here was to come up with something that looks like glass. And so a lot of times when pieces are glazed with ceramics or glass, overlays, they have sort of a texture, a subtle texture where the glaze, goes up and over, especially in a fused glass look. And so that's what I was really going for. And I'm calling this shards, because I try to use Liquid Sculpey to break it up and make it look like fused glass shards on top of more glass. So that was the whole inspiration behind this project. So what you see is different vessels here, a couple different vessels that the back is actually a Premo back. And then over the top I have layers of Liquid Sculpey, some thick, some thin, to mimic the look of glazes or glass. This piece, this necklace, all of these shards on the very top surface, those are actually Liquid Sculpey shards that have been mounted to Premo bases. And so incorporating Liquid Sculpey into your treasure trove might be a way that speaks to you to add more layers of detail and color and just a whole nother, avenue for adding layers of creativity. So today's project is going to be this little bowl that says dream on it. It came from this inspiration. We kind of boiled this piece down to make it a little more doable in a long form video. This one is a little bit more complicated, and so I've tried to leave the basic elements here, and I'm going to take you through it start to finish so that you can make this whole thing from this video. But this was the inspiration piece, and you can see that I have all these shards of actual Liquid Sculpey going here. The whole thing has been glazed with clear Liquid Sculpey and backfilled in the dark blue with navy metallic Liquid Sculpey. And so this is just a simplified version of that project. Okay, so before we start, let's talk about some Liquid Sculpey, getting Liquid Sculpey prepared to use. Liquid Sculpey comes in lots of fun finishes, and while I'm talking about it, we're gonna this is the clear Liquid Sculpey. It says it right there on the bottle, but it looks white. So you always want to check your bottles and make sure you understand what you have in your hand. This one's the clear, and it does bake shiny clear. It separates in the bottle, and so I'm gonna go ahead and dump it upside down in our mixing cup so that it can get draining into the cup, and then we'll come back and talk about that. This is our navy metallic, and so clear Liquid Sculpey comes in a variety of finishes. There are finishes that are sort of opaque and flat, like red, yellow, and blue. There are several metallic or mica style Liquid Sculpeys that come in navy metallic, garnet metallic. There's a whole line of Liquid Sculpeys that come in translucents, like turquoise translucent or amber translucent, or just straight up translucent. And so they all act pretty much the same, and they all require a little bit of a stirring before you use them, just to get all those ingredients working well together. The clear Liquid Sculpey, which is the one I have sitting upside down there in our silicone mixing cup, it is quite a bit different. It wants to separate into two parts, and so it takes a little bit more stirring. But all the other colors, black, white, yellow, red, all these color ones, you can just give them a quick and gentle stir right in the bottle, put the lid back on, and they are good to go. All right, now I'm always keep paper towels on hand for cleaning up my tools and my hands and my surfaces. That one's ready. Let's go back to the clear one now. Like I said before, this is our silicone mixing cup, and so right away a lot of the liquid part just came oozing out, and now what's coming out is the thicker part that kind of lives down in the bottom. And I always decant or completely unbottle my clear liquid Sculpey and put it in one of these cups. I never leave it in here. It's just a lot easier to stir it thoroughly when you have it all out where you can see it in this open mouth cup like this. So I'm just going to give this a nice scrape, get a lot of that stuff from the bottom. There's nothing wrong with clear liquid Sculpey when it does this. It's just the nature of it. And so learning to work with it and allow it to do what it does best is what you want to do. And it clears best and gets shiniest when it is completely mixed. And so once I have it completely out of the bottle and I leave it in this mixing cup on my workbench, on my, in my studio, I leave it in that mixing cup all the time, and I stir it every single time I use it, and it treats me really well, and I treat it really well by stirring it every single time. So if I have 4 projects in a day that are using clear liquid Sculpey, I'll stir it fresh for each and every project. So I don't know if you could see, but a lot of that was coming out of the bottom was quite a bit thicker than what came out at first. And I'll try to show you some of that as I get in here with my tool and see how it's quite a bit thicker. But the thing is, it just stirs completely back into one unit. And so I used that tool to bring it out. I'll show you the other tool that comes with the silicone cup. Just do a quick 2-second tidy here. Okay, this is the stirring spoon that comes with the silicone cup, and it comes with a lid so that you can put the lid on it and keep dust and dirt out. It is the right size and shape to go right inside the bottle, like so, and you can use it to scrape, some of that thicker stuff back out. So it'll go right inside the 1 ounce bottle. It has a flat bottom on the stirring stick so that you can get all the way down in the bottom of the cup and stir all that thick stuff in. Then the other end is pointed so that you can check for air bubbles in your pieces and pop it with that pointed end. So it's a very thoughtful design, this whole situation of providing a silicone cup and stir stick and a lid so that it remains clean. Now at this point, you could use your cup to add in alcohol ink if you want to tint your clear liquid Sculpey. You could add mica, or you could add some types of paint. You could add inclusions like glitter or foil. You could add those all right into the cup. Another way that this is useful is that this little measuring spoon on the end, you can use that to like measure out amounts of glitter or mica powder, so that each and every time you make your custom color, you have a measuring spoon to set up a recipe system so that you can recreate whatever color it might be that you use over and over again. So really useful. It's got a pour spout. When you're all done, if you have just a film of leftover liquid Sculpey in the cup itself, not the stir stick and not the lid, but the cup itself can go right in your oven, and that way the film of liquid Sculpey that is, still in the cup can be removed, peeled out after it's baked in the cup, and then you can do whatever you want to with that piece of liquid Sculpey. That remains because the cup can go right in the oven, and it's flexible so that you can get that piece of liquid out. Okay, so now it's reincorporated into one nice consistency of liquid Sculpey. Again, this is just the clear liquid Sculpey that requires a little bit more attention than the other colors, and it's worth it to take your time and spend your energy to stir it up just like you would paint or stain or any other do-it-yourself crafting materials, and just do that little regimen of stirring to get it ready to go. All right, now I'm just cleaning off my tools My liquids are ready, and we're going to use those. Well, we're going to use the clear one right away. I want to show you how I achieved these little shards. And because what would happen is you kind of would want to make those first. These are pieces of Liquid Sculpey that have already been baked, and let me show you this one. This is a Liquid Sculpey sheet. This is clear Liquid Sculpey with layers of glitter in it. And this has already been baked, and then after it's baked, it's so easy to cut with scissors. And this is the piece, the exact piece that I used to create this dish initially. You can even see some of my cutouts there. So if we wanted to go ahead and get our clear Liquid Sculpey tinted with glitter and put that in the oven, then it would be ready to go when you're ready for it. So let me show you how I did that. So for the purpose of this tutorial, I have this silicone baking sheet. It's a lot smaller, it travels well. For this one, I did like a really big sheet, and I poured the clear Liquid Sculpey in the bottom of a silicone baking pan and then added glitter. So I'm just going to show you a smaller version of that technique right here. So I'm just going to pour some of my clear liquid, and you can make these glass-like shards out of any of the liquids. It's just that if you want to put something shiny inside, like I did with the glitter, you would probably want to tint your clear as opposed to, you know, a color. So all I did was like make a little surround of a puddle, just a little puddle of clear Liquid Sculpey right in there. And then I'll just tap this gently, and that will help me release. You can see the surface air bubbles are just popping right away. They're not stubborn at all. Okay? So, if my little spoon weren't already covered with Liquid Sculpey, I would use it. But I brought along this little coffee stirrer just to show you how to get some glitter applied in this clear Liquid Sculpey. So, I'm using like 6 different colors of glitter, and I'm just spooning them in thickly. And I kept my puddle in the middle because later it will stretch, and I want my shards to be really, really thin. So that's why I didn't spread the clear Liquid Sculpey out completely yet. I'm using a couple different styles of glitter. Some are more chunky than others. Any glitter will work as long as it is heat resistant, you know, to your oven. And you could just test it by baking some glitter. There are a few glitters on the market, like in the children's craft department, that are actually plastic and they'll melt in the oven. But your higher grade art quality glitters like this one, they don't melt or change in the oven, and so that's important for achieving your design. All right, so like I said, I have some that are very fine and some that are very heavy, but they're all art quality glitters, so they bake well. I got one more color to show you. So I'm just basically creating blends with the glitter. All right, so next thing I'm going to do is now these ones are baked, so just pay attention to these. I'm actually going to stretch my clear liquid a little bit and thin it by tilting my dish. This is a silicone baking dish that came from like the baking department in a craft store. And the reason silicone works so well is because, number one, it'll go, you know, in your home oven. Number two, it's super flexible, and the Liquid Sculpey will remove right from it. Another way that it's very easy to work with Liquid Sculpey is that sometimes when you write on, for example, this piece, I drew these little dots of Liquid Sculpey on a flat silicone surface and then baked them. Now, if sometimes when you squirt Liquid Sculpey onto glass surfaces, it will tend to spread a little. but I find that if I squirt my design elements onto a piece of silicone, like a silicone baking sheet or a silicone trivet, and put that in the oven, that I have more control over the spread, and the Liquid Sculpey won't spread out as much. So that's why I prefer to use silicone baking pieces. Okay, so when I prepared these two pieces, I did that in my home studio before I came, and I actually spent quite a bit of time maneuvering the Liquid Sculpey and the glitter so that it created more of a full, square area. And I'm not going to do that here. I think you get the idea of how you tint the clear liquid with your glitters and how you can move it around to stretch it just a bit. So that would go in the oven for 30 minutes, and then it would be ready to peel out and use. But before we do that, let's take a look at creating the background of the dish that we want to make, and we'll come back to our shards. So I wanted to simplify this original piece. I wanted to simplify it down to a little bit smaller piece so that I could show you that start to finish. And so I made this round dish instead. Now the background of the round dish is white Premo, that's frost white glitter, and I've already conditioned this quite a bit. This is an entire bar of frost white glitter, and I have it, soft to my hands. And what I wanted to do was to incorporate some of this dreamy, speckly background that what I thought was complementary to the front. And so the way I did that was to use some of my really, really lightweight glitters, the ones that were the most fine. And I just sprinkled those out. And I'm trying to go very sparingly. And then I'm rolling this ball of frost white glitter clay in that glitter, and I want to pick it all up. Now I have a confession to make, that you don't have to be at clay for very long to realize what a great eraser clay is. It just picks up all kinds of glitter and mica powder and chalk and all kinds of stuff off of your work surface. Well, my confession is that sometimes when I'm working on a larger piece like this, I will intentionally pick up a bunch of stuff off my work surface with the clay just to add like this tiny detail of, hey, where did that little dot come from? Or why is there a little tiny red fleck of glitter in this white dish? Or I'm just saying that sometimes I use the clay I'm working with to clean up, and then I get these really organic and unique little flecks of information that you might not expect, and I like that. Okay, so I have the glitter mostly on the outside, and if I were to use this the way it is, that's way too much. That's way too much glitter on the outside. What I want is just like these ethereal, spreads of stars. I don't want huge amounts of glitter. So what I need to do is just get some of that worked into the middle of the ball and let it dissolve like inside. It's not technically going to dissolve, but it disappears. The more I condition, it's going to disappear into the inner layers of the ball, and that looks really cool because then when you look through it, you get some glitter that's obviously right on the surface and some glitter that is like below the surface, and it just creates a whole quality of mystery and just fun detail that is very organic looking. Okay, so now we don't have so many big blotches of the glitter on the outside. Okay, I'm going to re-roll it into a ball. And then we're going to use our acrylic clay roller to flatten this down a bit and see how it looks. You can roll both sides. see which side you like best. I like to make dishes a lot, and I've found that when I'm making them, I always try to put the most intriguing part of the clay on the inside, because that's the part you see the most. It's what carries the most information. So, okay. So this one is going to have quite a bit more, maybe, you know, waves going through it, but I think that's just fine. Just keep rolling this till it's, you know, pretty circular, nice pancake. And then you need a ceramic form, or ceramic or metal. And the only reason is because this piece of clay is going to follow, it's going to follow this dish all the way through the baking, the finishing, and it needs to be, you know, able to go in the oven. So this is just a ceramic saucer that I liked the shape of it, and I have a whole collection of different glass and ceramic pieces, cereal bowls, baking dishes that make really good polymer clay forms. Some are deep, some are shallow. And this just provides you a really nice form to mount a dish into, a clay dish, and go from there. So you would want to just go all around, make sure your edges are even. Then just go back across the middle with a hard edge finger and flatten that all down. Okay? Make sure the clay is like really mounted well to that ceramic dish so that it's following the shape of the dish. Okay? Now at this point, if you wanted to, you could really pinch this edge down and make it quite thin. This would be a good time to do that. Premo Sculpey, which is what we're using right here, it's so strong that if you wanted to make the edge of this dish, take it all the way down to a very thin lip, you can certainly do that with Premo clay, because it's so strong when it's baked. And I love that quality about it, because it helps you create things that are so much finer, detailed, but still useful. Now, let's keep in mind though that it is art, and we're going to treat it as such. But still, the Premo is very strong when it's baked, so it can have a thin edge if you'd like. All right, we'll just go to there, and I think this is about the same diameter as this one. It's close anyway. The next thing I wanted to do was to establish this word dream across the bottom, because putting that straight line across the bottom and mounting the word there, then that guided the whole layout of the rest of the star. And so I have this is just like a, well, it's like a credit card or a room key is the exact shape of it. And so I just used it to like mark off a straight line that's about 2/3 of the way over. And then I have these cool rubber stamps. And when I do a single word like this, I always start right in the middle with the middle letter. This word is dream, and so E would be the middle letter. And I'm just going to stamp it in first. And all I'm really doing is creating a texture, because later that texture is going to be backfilled with blue, navy blue Liquid Sculpey, and create an area where you can have a word that is highlighted. So I'll just stamp I'm lining my letters up with that pink card, and then I'm removing the edges of the stamp with my fingertip. So I have the EAM, and I'm pushing really hard because I want that to be a nice deep word that's going to capture the Liquid Sculpey and trap it in there so that you can really read it well. And I'm going to show you how I did that with this one, is why that one's not finished. So here's my R, smooth that out, and then my D. And I'm just examining each letter to see how much negative space they have around them, because I can create somewhat of an overlap between the letters if I know how much excess space is on the edge of each letter. So there's our word dream. Okay, now I'm ready to take my shards, which have already been baked, and I can apply those up into this area. Excuse me for a second, because my credit card, I pushed it down too hard and got some nicks there. Okay. All right, so this is so cool. When these come out of the oven, you just peel them out, and look how clear and shiny and beautiful they are, ready to use as design elements in your project. Okay, next I just take my favorite scissors, and I like how these ones have the sun part has, or the star part has kind of a portion of the silver and the purple. And for a guideline, I like to use one of our circle cutters. So it's one bigger than that. And I just kind of line it up here how I want it to be, and then cut around it with scissors. Just getting an initial cut, and then we can trim it and make it look however we want. I'm going to cut this bottom off. Now here's something funny. When I cut these little scraps off like that, I save those because they are legitimate shards too, and you can use those. You never know when you're just going to need a little blip of like brightness or sparkliness or color, and there you have it. That can go in another project. It could go in this project. It could go wherever we want it to. So, all right, so there's my star, the beginning of my star. I'm just going to lay it there. I'm only laying it for now. And then my rays that go around the outside, I'm going to cut a guideline first, get this real straight. And then I just need to do a visual inspection of how high up I can go into my colors. For these. And then we'll just lay them in there. So there's that. And that one's kind of too tall, so that gives me a clue that I need to go. I'm going to go a little shorter. But we'll just trim them. And there's 5 of these blue ones. Oops. We want to alternate them. It's kind of a doodly little project, kind of create as you go, but that kind of thing really speaks to my line of creativity. I just like to kind of doodle around. Okay, so now I'm going to cut these so that they fit the design better. And you want to save all those little cuttings. And there you go. So where these are going too far off, we can just trim those. Or you could actually bake them in place and then trim them afterwards. You can always trim them. Once they're mounted and pressed into the Premo dish, they're not going to go anywhere after baking. So okay, so then all we have to do is layer in some of these little pieces, the purples, and we'll do a similar thing with them, but they're a lot shorter, so I'm going to actually cut this off. save that for another project. So we just need 5 of these, or actually 4, and I'll alternate them. Okay, and then once you like your layout, we're ready to embed that in the bowl. So, I'll trim these real quick so they look more like, brightness that's coming away from the star, not just blunt designs. Okay, so our shards are all in place. Now all we do is embed them in the Premo dish backing. Just use your fingertips and make sure that they are connecting to the Premo base. And baked Liquid Sculpey really loves to stick to raw Premo, so this is not any bit of a chore. You'd have a hard time separating them once they're all in place. So okay, and then what I like to do is just take some of our tools and go back in here and add just a few details, because we are going to backfill this area with the navy metallic Liquid Sculpey, and so I want there to be places where there's like a little texture to receive that navy blue highlight, and so I'm adding just a few scribes and dots. I'm using a needle tool to add some detail. I used the 2mm ball tool to add those little divots. And it's all just part of creating a cohesive design that has a lot of texture. All right, that would go in the oven and bake at 275 for about 30 minutes. When it comes out of the oven, on the glass, I want you to see how easy this just removes from the glass, and I'll do a 2-second tidy there. Okay, so then it just pops right off. Okay, now here's something interesting about all oven baked clays, Premo or Liquid Sculpey, either one. You can see that this is kind of shiny. It actually takes on the finish of whatever it bakes itself to. So if you want this to be glass-like and you can perfect that, you could make it pick up all that shiny glass area. But I have a hard time getting that to happen, so I oftentimes will back my bowls or my dishes with a complementary backing. And so I have this gray granite that I've already processed for the backing, and we're going to use that. This has been put through a pasta machine on the thickest setting, and I just want to stretch it a little bitty bit just to make sure I have enough. And this is one of those places where I'm letting the gray granite pick up that random glitter from the work surface, but it's all going to look good in there because it's actually part of that project. So all we have to do then is center this dish in that gray granite, and then we will use our acrylic roller to make sure that flat part really bonds to the already baked dish. And yes, you can add unbaked clay to baked clay and rebake it. Especially with Premo Sculpey, you can just bake it over and over and over, and as long as you don't burn it with too much temperature, you can just keep adding to your project. So that will be the background, and I'll just take a blade here and trim it. This is the part where if you had little tips of the baked Liquid Sculpey protruding past the edge of your dish, you could go ahead and cut those with scissors. They would be permanently bonded to the Premo except for where they stick out. Okay, so now this has a nice backing on it, and I'm just going to go ahead and pull that backing just around the edge a little bit so that it gives it a really nice lip on the edge. Makes it look very finished. If I were at home, I would take a lot of time to really smooth that with my fingertips and just get it exactly the way I want that gray granite to be, you know, matching up to the white, the Premo white. So, and I will do that before it goes in the oven, but I want you to get all the points, you know, of this tutorial, so I'm not gonna make you watch me do that for too long. Smoothing that out a bit with my finger. Finger buffing is just such a great way to smooth things. Okay, I'm really loving that. If you wanted to, you could put another you know, disc of the gray granite on the bottom to create a tiny foot, or you can use it just as is. But the dish is going to always take on the form, whatever you baked it on, that's, you know, how it's going to look. So, and this has a really nice flat bottom. That means that my dish already has a nice flat bottom. All right, our final touch would be to add the navy metallic Liquid Sculpey into the little detail areas. So for that, I want to have some paper towel ready, or even a baby wipe, and I'm going to put some of this Liquid Sculpey directly across my lettering, and then just work it in with my fingers. Now another place that this Liquid Sculpey is going to want to highlight would be all around the edges of our shards, and that would look nice too. That's, you know, that's really up to you how far you want to take the Liquid Sculpey. I'm making sure to get it in some of those little divots I made with my 2mm ball tool. I'm just picking it up and moving it. And into my needle marks. You can always add more as needed, just to make sure you've got all your little cracks and crevices covered. All your little needle marks. Let's just put a little bit more here on these needle marks. I love to use Liquid Sculpey as an antiquing medium. There's something about it, it's a lot more oily than, say, acrylic paint. And in the past, a lot of artists have liked using acrylic paint as their antiquing medium. And since Liquid Sculpey was first introduced, I have preferred it because it's oily and it will come right back off of the surface of the polymer clay, of the baked polymer clay, whereas I feel like acrylic paint tends to stain the clay and won't ever come completely back off. So now we'll just wipe away the excess. You can leave as much or as little of that liquid on there as you want. You can allow it to tint, you know, different areas, or you can wipe it back to its original finish. And there you have it. Just a little bit more removal of that Liquid Sculpey and it would be ready to go into the oven. One more time, that will cure the Liquid Sculpey as well as the base that we put on the back. And so I hope you're inspired to try making your own Liquid Sculpey shards and faux Liquid Sculpey ceramic and glass items. We hope you've enjoyed learning to use Liquid Sculpey in a whole new way. And if you would enjoy more techniques and thousands of projects, please visit our website, sculpey.com. If you post to social media, we'd love to see what you make. So please use the hashtag Sculpey and How Do You Sculpey so that we can check out your work too.